Here, so good to see you. Welcome everyone. The theme for June is a mindful life. And all month long we're going to be exploring Buddhist teachings. And maybe some other teachings too. Kind of like a science of mind merges with Buddhism. That's what we're doing here today. So metaphysics, Buddhism, science of mind. Thank you so much for that wonderful experience with the didgeridoo. It took us beyond our known realm into the twilight zone, I think. So thank you. Into the Tur realm. Yes. So I found this quote by Thich Nhat Hanh from his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness. Feelings, whether of compassion or irritation, should be welcomed, recognized and treated on an absolutely equal basis, because both are ourselves. The tangerine I am eating is me. The mustard greens I am planting are me. I plant with all my heart and mind. I clean this teapot with the kind of attention I would have if I were giving a baby Buddha or Jesus a bath. Nothing should be treated more carefully than anything else. In mindfulness, compassion, irritation, mustard green plant, and teapot are all sacred. All sacred. So we're going to look at the sacred life that's our life right now. It's a way of engaging with life in a very attentive way, a way of being really present to the moment and to everything that's happening in the moment, and to everyone that's joining you in the moment, in the oneness. So my talk title today is True Refuge. And I am going to help you understand what that really means, not the refuge of partying on all the time, but taking refuge in what the Buddhists call the triple gem. And the triple gem, there are three facets that the Buddhists suggest we take refuge in, or we take comfort in. We find comfort from what? What are we taking comfort from? Well, one of the key concepts of Buddhism is that suffering exists. What does that mean? That life can be something we struggle with. That there is suffering that happens. Life happens, death happens. Feasts happen, famines happen. So with this waking up to this reality that we live in this world of opposites, of the good and the bad, the light and the dark. Within this experience, bless you, we might experience struggle. If we're not in tune with reality, we may, if we're living from a predominantly ego-sensed place, we will suffer with reality because it's not all peaches and cream. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah, it doesn't always go our way. So they offer this triple gem as a tool for us to take refuge in something that's true, something that's more permanent, more real than what we perceive as real on the outside, things that we take refuge in on the outside. Bless you, bless you. Thank you. So I'm going to share some teachings, and look at the time. I'm also going to share some time for reflection, and then we're going to do a meditation and a ceremony. And this is where your stream comes in. Does everyone have a stream? Yes. Everyone? Does anyone not have a stream? Okay. I just want you to leave it. It can't be tied. It just needs to be in one length. And throughout our service, you're going to be introduced to the three gems, the three refuges, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we're going to do a ceremony at the end where you tie a knot for the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Then you'll have a little bracelet like mine, and it's got 3 knots in it, and it will be tied on your wrist, and somebody else will join you in this ceremony in helping you tie the final knots, so it'll be 4 knots. And in this, you'll have something to remind you of reality, something that you can take refuge in and find a place of peace and love and harmony. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so it seems as though we have this sense, or at least I'll speak for myself, and I might include you. I had a sense growing up that there was something wrong, that life, I didn't quite get it, and at any time something terrible could happen. I grew up in the 60s in England, and during that time we were conditioned as children to be scared to death that the Russians were going to send over a nuclear bomb and kill us all. And so that was the scary thing that I grew up as a child really thinking that, and I didn't know who the Russians were, it could have been coming straight out of the heavens for all I knew, but something was coming, and so I grew up with a sense of being really scared. Did anyone grow up with a sense of being scared as a child like that? And it may not be for the same reasons as I was, but it seems that when we're young, we take on these ideas that the news media feeds us and our parents and those around us, and we get a sense that there's something wrong and we need to escape. We need to find safety somehow. And our ego mind, our rational mind gets activated, and we try some different strategies to ease us out of struggle and suffering and fear. Am I making sense? Yes. So, this is what I'm referring to when I talk about the Buddhists say that suffering exists. These things do exist. Life and death do happen. And we can either get really traumatized by worrying about these things, or we can tune in to these 3 refuges to find a place of peace with reality. So, William James said that in the beginning, every religion is a cry for help. It seems like all religions have been sort of this answer, or attempting to have an answer for people's cry for help in the world, for people to feel connected, that there is safety, that there is a God, there is something to hold on to after. A beautiful poet and writer, Clarissa Estes, said about prayer, "No one can keep you from lifting your heart towards heaven, only you." So in this teaching, we're reminded that it's up to us, that we get to be the ones that lift our hearts towards heaven. And what does that mean? I'm not talking about a heaven outside, and when I say lifting, I don't mean struggling. I mean raising up our awareness to heaven, heaven within, to this higher ground. So nobody can stop us from doing that. Nobody can hinder that attempt to raise up our awareness to heaven within us. So there's some interesting strategies that we have developed here on Earth School. Strategies to help us survive. And there are 3 parts of our brain. And there's the first part, which is our cortex, our reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain, it helps us to stay safe. And you might imagine a lizard. And you might imagine this lizard darting, the squirrel's next. You might imagine the lizard darting under a rock for safety. And so there's this part of our brain that is wired to keep us safe, to stay out of harm's way. And then there's the other part of the brain, the mammalian brain, or the limbic brain, which is seeking nourishment. And you might think of a squirrel gathering acorns. It's that part of us that wants to survive, that wants to hold on to things and wants to keep us safe by holding on to things. And then there's the monkey brain, the cortex, and that is there for attachment and connection. And that's what creates safety and security. And so when I think of that, I think of little monkeys grooming each other and taking care of each other. So we have these three aspects of our brain. Our reptilian brain that is seeking for safety, our mammalian brain, the squirrel, that's seeking to gather things for security, and then there's our monkey brain that is seeking connection. And so we're going to look at these three ways that we use this portion of our brain. Now, part of this is great. It's great to keep safe, so we're glad that we have that part of our brain that's got us on the lookout for danger. And then we've got that part of our brain that wants to gather things, to accumulate, and that's good because we like to have those creature comforts. And then there's that part of our brain where we're caring about other people, and it's good. But sometimes these brains, these parts of our personality can go a little haywire. And I call this moving into the shadow. And so the shadow of the lizard brain it protects itself by lying, exaggerating, procrastinating, attaching, or judging. Notice that? No? Just me? Okay, well, I'm just talking to myself here, obviously. So for most of us, our lizard brain is fixated on what is going wrong. Yeah? It's fixated and it keeps worry alive and it's anticipating the worst and something bad around the corner. There's some of you. Then there's the mammalian brain, the squirrel, and this is the one that goes for rewards. So we overeat, we get addicted to surfing the internet or gaming or alcohol or food or gambling or whatever. And for many it's a fantasy of, I need something in order to feel better, I need something. So it's that filling that hole, that desire and that need. Yes. So a few other people have that one. Okay. So there's something missing, and if I have it, then I'm going to be okay. It could be a person, it could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be money, it could be a career, it could be, it's that part of us that thinks there's something missing and something wrong, and if I have it, I'm going to be fine. That's the shadow part of the mammalian brain. And then the monkey brain, when it's overloaded, it finds itself attaching to other people, wanting to manipulate and control others. Judging or obsessively rehearsing what you're going to say to somebody. Anyone relate to this? Yeah. Okay, good. Not just me. So those are the shadow parts of this brain of ours. So these are three ways that we take refuge. We unconsciously move into these habits and take refuge in this way, and what does it do? It causes more worry, more struggle, more overeating, more this and that. So we have to break the habit. We have to break the habit of using that as a default. And so I introduce to you the triple gem, the true refuge of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So what does this mean? So I'm going to explore it in a slightly different way than it's presented. I'm going to start with the Dharma. Now the Dharma is life itself. The Dharma is the teachings. And all of you here are experiencing an outer refuge in the Dharma because you're here listening to this beautiful message, this music coming together. And in that way, you are tuning into reality. You're tuning into something that uplifts and helps you to remember who you really are. So in this way, we can take refuge in the Dharma, in life itself, in reality, just as it is. And we can do this on the inside, and we can do this on the outside. We do it by coming to places like this, or taking a class, or listening to podcasts, or doing a retreat, taking meditation, having a practice of yoga. We can do these things and connect ourselves with reality. And then there's the Sangha. And this is where we can take refuge in our relationships, in our loved ones, in community, spiritual community, like the Satya community. And we can take true refuge in this way, because as we come together in the Sangha, which is spiritual community, we can see, okay, we're not on this path together, and we all struggle. We've all been inflicted with this virus of conditioning that tells us that we need something out there to make us happy. And we can see that, oh yeah, we're similar. We all struggle with this earth walk and trying to find peace and happiness, but we can find it purely in the comfort of our relationships. Heart to heart, true relationships, without judgment, without criticism, unconditioned relationships, where we meet heart to heart, soul to soul, and we just allow individuals to be who they are without that ego brain jumping in to criticize and judge and all of that stuff. That's true refuge in the Sangha. Truly coming together with an open heart. And then we have refuge in the Buddha. And the Buddha represents awareness. Pure awareness. It's our ability to be awake. Consciously aware of what's happening. And you can experience this awareness when you notice that your mind is busy, and then you take some time just to stop and let go of the mind and be fully present in this awakened state. Just aware and awake. So we can take refuge in these three things. In the Buddha, awareness. In the Dharma, life and truth. And in the Sangha, in love, in our loving relationships. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So opposed to all those other, lizard, monkey, and what was the other one? Squirrel. Instead of those, you'll catch yourself when you're being squirrel-like, when you're trying to do things and gather things, or when you're dodging for safety, when there's nothing happening. You're perfectly fine. There's no missiles coming. The sun's not crashing into the earth. Everything's fine. And then you find yourself trying to sometimes control other people. You ever do that? Wonder what they're doing, what they're saying. Yeah? Well, stop it. Stop all of that. Stop it.
Stop it. Now.
Stop it. Stop. And just simply take refuge in awareness, being aware, awake, in the truth of reality, that reality is, what does Byron Katie say? When you argue with reality, you lose only 100% of the time. Reality is okay, even if it's not going your way, because this too shall pass. And that's hard to hear sometimes when you're in the thick of things. But we can take refuge in the knowing that life is. In science of mind, I would say that the Dharma is really the law. The law is always responding to us. The law is a respecter of no persons. We're just always utilizing this law that responds to our every thought, word, and action. So in this way, we can take comfort that the law, that life itself is always responding to us. And it's not personal. If I touch the burning flame, it's going to burn my hand. It happens all the time. I can trust that. There's just laws in the universe. Reality is reality. Life happens, death happens. So in this place of refuge, we take a sort of comfort. We relax knowing that one day we will die. And we become okay with that. In our culture, we're not very geared and ready for death. In other cultures, they really do a better job at creating creating about this experience. It's a part of the life experience is. And so we take refuge in these things, and it creates a gentler place for us to live where we're more accepting of reality. So now you can play with your strings. So you can take your strings out. So I'm going to good awareness of what these three teachings are, right? Awareness, truth, and love. And so whenever you're ready, I'm going to have you close your eyes, but whenever you're ready and you feel like it's time, you just tie a knot for awareness, you tie a knot for truth, and you tie a knot for love. And then don't put it on your wrist yet, and then you need somebody else to help you with connecting it on your wrist. So close your eyes and take a breath. Here's a quote from a Buddhist master. In the Buddhist tradition, the purpose of taking refuge is to awaken from confusion and associate oneself with wakefulness. Taking refuge is a matter of commitment and acceptance, and at the same time of openness and freedom. By taking the refuge vow, we commit ourselves to freedom. Okay, so close the eyes, and we're going to work with this protection cord. Why is it a protection? It's a protection from yourself, from your ego, is what you're protecting yourself from the lizard brain, the squirrel brain, and the monkey brain. So we're going to infuse this cord with your deep intention for awakening. Awakening to who you really are, your true self. And you'll have it on your wrist as a reminder, a way of you deepening your spiritual path. And just get a sense of all of these refuges with a loving, awake presence. I take refuge in the Buddha, the awareness, and sense that luminosity now. It's almost like a homecoming. You're lifting your heart towards heaven. And you take refuge in the Buddha. And maybe you tie a knot for the Buddha now, for awareness. I take refuge in truth, the teachings, the practices, and the principles and tie a knot for taking refuge in the Dharma, the truth, the teachings. And I take refuge in love's presence, in the field of all beings, conscious relationships with loved ones, loving myself, holding myself in the vibration of love, and tie a third knot for taking refuge in the Sangha, in the loving community. Love for self, love's presence. And now take a deep breath in, inhaling, and exhaling. And now I want you to find a partner to help you tie the last knot, so you tie it on your wrist, not too tight. And just do this quietly. No talking, and just pay attention to the energy that happens when you engage with another person. Just feel that you're truly taking refuge in these things. You're making a commitment to yourself to be free and fear, free from attachments, free from worry, and really connecting to your innate truth, your innate presence, your innate love, your innate awareness. This cord is your protection cord, and when it falls off, when it washes off in the bath or the shower one day, it's a perfect time for that to happen. Don't be attached to your protection cord. Okay, so I'm going to ask you that you close your eyes again as we close with a simple prayer, a loving kindness blessing. And we're going to send this out because what I know is when we do this work in consciousness, that we're doing it for all humanity. So if you will, tune in. And I'm going to ask the practitioners to stand up. They're going to hold the space. Together here we hold the space. Create the container. And gently close your eyes in loving kindness for all beings. With this blessing cord as a reminder that you've come home to love, that you've come home to yourself, that you're taking refuge in your heart, and from this place within you, may all beings everywhere realize their deepest truth, their deepest nature as love's presence. May all beings everywhere live in peace, move in peace, think with peace, love with peace, laugh with peace, cry with peace. May we all connect in that deep ground of being that holds us all in its perfection. May this be the truth for us today, for all beings around our globe, that all beings are free from pain and suffering, and the root cause of pain and suffering, and all beings without exception wake up to love's presence as who they are. Now and always. And always. For this we give thanks. For the ongoing expression of love through us, we give thanks. May we live in peace and joy and freedom forevermore. And so it is. Amen. Namaste. Okay. All right. So, do you feel good? Do you have your protection cords on now?
Yes.
Okay, if you didn't get one, if you missed out on that, we have plenty. Where are the cords? Who has those? Does anyone need an extra cord? Oh, a couple up here. One more cord? Oh, okay. Okay, so we have another song, a beautiful song by our beloved Makamamas, and we're going to do this is our time of offering. So we're going to quickly say our offering affirmation, and then we're going to enjoy being opened in our hearts and allow this teaching to truly settle into our DNA. Okay, so let's say our blessing of the offering together. Joyfully I give with gratitude, for I know that as I give, I am given. I allow the abundant nature of the universe to flow through me now. I am so blessed, and so it is.
We're going to invite you to do some kirtan with us. And if you feel inspired, we'd love for you to join us this in a couple hours. We're basically just going to be tuning into our own vibration and aligning ourselves to the highest. And Shannon will sing the response with you in case you feel lost or something. And when we do this practice, we're really just calling in that which is already within us. Sometimes we just forget about that, so we have to do this practice of singing back and forth to each other, yeah?
so grateful for all that we have, for each and every one of you for being here, for anyone who may be here for the first time. We have 2 new people here today for the first time.
Yay!
Welcome to our church. So for all things, we are grateful for all of the blessings in our lives, for each and every one of you that are here today, for the people on either side of you and around the circle. Blessings and gratitude for each of you. You make a difference in our lives. I know you make a difference in your own life too. For all that is shared and given in here, all of the love and the gratitude, even the financial sustenance that supports us in this community for our center. Thank you. Gratitude. And may you know that something wonderful is happening right now.
Something wonderful is happening right now.
It is this thing called love.
It is this thing called love.
Love is in my heart.
Love is in my heart.
Love is in my mind.
Love is in my mind.
Love is in all of my affairs.
Love is in all my affairs.
I know this.
I know